All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 41 of Cage Side Convos. I'm Rick.
And this is Quince.
And this week, we're actually coming to you guys over Zoom. We're broadcasting, well, I guess not live, but from Tunes 92.5 right here in Watertown, New York. And we are joined by Robert Drummond. Robert is a former NFL player, also played in the Canadian Football League. Born and raised right in Syracuse, New York, played football for Syracuse University. Very happy to have him join us. And before I turn the mic over to him, I want to give a shout out real quick to our local sponsors, the Farm to Table Company. They're started right in Syracuse, New York as well. Their goal is to take farmers that have products and connect them directly to the people that need the product, kind of cutting out the middleman of the superstores and all that. We're always going to link to them in our YouTube comments. If you guys want to check them out, they are on Facebook. They do have a YouTube channel. They're on Instagram and all that. It's the F2T.co. So Farm to Table Company, F2T.co if you want to look them up online. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I'm always excited to get on and just talk because I enjoy talk.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Oh man. We got linked up a couple weeks ago, a mutual friend, JP Voico there. And I had the pleasure of listening to you talk a little bit at his anti-violence event. And yeah, so you talk, man. I talk away. I love everything. We talked a little bit after you talked, probably about 15 minutes, and we got to chat for a little bit.
Yeah.
Very much enjoyed the conversation, man. So take us away to introduce us to Robert.
Well, I mean, as I start any speech, my name is Robert Drummond, and I always give my football, analog before anything, so I can get that out of the way, because I always tell my children I'm so much more than a football player. Football was just what I did. Being a father and being a human being is who I am. And I played at JD High School, a small little suburb right outside the town of Syracuse. Grew up there. From there, I went to Syracuse. From Syracuse, I got drafted in the third round by the Philadelphia Eagles. I spent 5 years there. Then another 10 years, I played with the Toronto Argonauts in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I spent 7 years in the gorgeous Vancouver, British Columbia. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go there, tell people, put it on your bucket list. It's one of the most beautiful cities you've ever been in before.
Absolutely.
But that's my football life. But football taught me perseverance. Football taught me hard work. Football taught me a lot of things that, unfortunately, being a role model, being somebody in the city of Syracuse, that they consider a legend, having your father murdered by a 16-year-old kid for doing nothing but just being a good Samaritan is a tough thing to swallow for not just me, for any human being.
Yeah.
And it made me bitter for a long time. And I remember just sitting there thinking to myself, I mean, it changed the concept of how I think. Because at the time, my eldest son was only a month old.
Okay.
I remember just going down a dark path of being. It's like, what am I going to do to tell him that his grandfather's not here or my father's not here? Or, what I mean? And I was just so lost. I mean, and anybody would be lost. It's just, it's just recognize the simple fact that having someone murder hurts like heck.
Yeah.
It's something I can't explain to people. But instead of going down a road of destruction, self-mutilation and having thoughts of suicide, having thoughts of just, taking myself away from my son. I didn't want to do the same thing to my son that was done to me. And I refused to do that. So I got on this whole inner spiritual thing with myself, because I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. Religion, for some reason, to me, just allows me to not like someone because they're different to me. And I refuse to not like someone because they're different to me. You can give me a reason not to like you because you're a bad person, or you're just not a nice person at all. But I'm not just gonna not like you because you're gay or you're lesbian or you're white or you're Asian or that's dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt until they give me a reason not to like them, and I'm still not gonna hate them. But I keep myself distance from them. Sure. But it taught me, as someone who's a personal trainer now, who works with tons of kids, to be able to go out there and motivate these kids to want more for themselves and to want more, out of their life than this young man who I actually forgave at the trial when he was sentenced. He was sentenced to 31 years of life. And I remember just shedding a tear for him because I said to myself, it's like, young man, honestly, my father's dead, and he's gone. He's never coming back. But, you've given up 31 years of your life. You know, that's a family you could have started. That's a, you know, that's it. So 2 families lost their loved ones that day. Well, during that time, I lost my father, and his family lost him to 31 years in prison.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, to me, that was tough, you know, and I told them, you know, I hope you learn from this. And, you know, and even when, because they put you on a list in case the defendant or the person who's being jailed ever comes up for parole, I actually have to go to parole board meeting to decide if he gets out on parole or not. And I was like, you know what? I'm a big supporter of letting the system work itself. You know, so if the parole board decides that he's been a model citizen and he's been doing the right things, that he should be paroled, I'm not going to stop it. You know, that's God's will. You know, and I just hope that I told him, I hope you make a difference when you get out to change the lives, because you didn't destroy my life. I didn't let it destroy me. I allowed it to be able to give me the strength to be able to go out there and educate these young kids. As I said before, being a personal trainer now, I get a chance to be around hundreds of kids a day, and I absolutely love it because I have an influence on them. Football is my way in to talk to these kids. You know, but my real life story is my way to really connect to them and let them understand that no matter how much I be hurt inside or broken inside, I'm still going to do everything I can in my power, you know, to see them successful. It gives me so much pleasure and so much joy to see these young kids be able to put a smile on their face when they do something or accomplish something that they worked hard to do. You know, and that's life. And that's the one thing I try and teach them. And the reason I got on that bandwagon is because I have 2 young sons myself, and I'm a big believer in leading by example. You know, so if I set the tone for these kids, then they're definitely going to want to follow because they look up to me, and I understand that. And I always tell these children, it's like, you know what, you never know. You never know who's watching you. So always go out there and be a role model and be somebody who goes out there and does the positive things and the good things so people can follow you and want to be like you. They'll talk about you if you're good or bad, but if you're a good person, they'll talk about you for a lifetime.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Wow. There's man, Robert.
Where do you start?
Yeah. One of the things that and even this is the second time I've heard kind of your story, and obviously there's just so much depth to it, and it gives me chills hearing it and hearing like what the craziest thing is how you just seamlessly go from, well, this is my football career and this crazy, this terrible thing happened, and then all of a sudden, boom, you just right through it. So when you tell the story, it's seamless. Before it happened, and then after it happened, and it's all just seamless. Right? But I mean, obviously that's not how it went in life. So so you said your father was murdered. Kind of where does that fit in? Where does that fit into your lifeline, your career? So did you still play football after it? What did you have to do mentally? Kind of, if you would, as much as you want, let's take us through that process a little bit. Dive into that for us a little, and let's see how you got through it.
It was the roughest, I'd say, 2 years of my life, because it took roughly about 2 years, going to see psychiatrists because I thought I was going crazy. As I said before, I was on suicide watch with myself, but the thing about me is, I'm mentally tough. I've always been mentally tough in the game of football, and that's what got me through and why I accomplished what I accomplished in the sport of football. I'm a hard worker. I always tell myself, it's like, you might be better than me, you might be more athletic, you might be more talented, but you'll never outwork me. And eventually my hard work will pay off. I may not be as great as you, but I'll be just as good. They'll recognize me just as much as you because they'll recognize my work ethic. And every coach always told me I was one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working person they've ever had on their team. And I took pride in that. So and the same thing went for me after my father was murdered. Just talking to psychiatrists who had told me by the time I left, it's like, young man, you're going to be fine. Because you got your priorities straight and you're very, very mentally tough. You don't let things bring you down, or get you down. It's that you may get sad, and I guess I still get sad to this day. It's been 22 years later, and of course I'm going to get sad. I miss him. But it just drives me to want to be more successful, for these young kids, so they can see someone, especially, a black man, in this community, being successful, doing positive things, so they can understand that they can do the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm not on I'm approachable, which basically means to me is that when they look at a superstar on TV, like a LeBron James or a Giannis or all these superstars they see on TV, that's on the television. They can't get in touch with them. They can't reach out and actually, have human interaction with those guys. Someone like me, I'm right down the street. They can call me any day.
Yeah.
I go and speak to at schools all the time. I even go to the public safety building here and in the prison system and talk to the inmates in there also, because I feel it's my need, to give back, to let them understand that, you don't have to let tragedy as a human being break you. You know, you can rise above it. You know, it's going to take hard work, you know, but you can always rise above it. You know, don't let what, you know, got you in a down state or a spiral in the first place bring you down also. You know, especially for my sons. You know, it's just, I mean, I love those kids with all my heart. You know, and I do anything in the world just to see them successful. But the one thing I always teach them is that, you know what, nothing in life is going to be given to you. Tragic things are going to happen. Eventually, you're going to have to decide whether you want to rise above it or let it, you know, bring you down to the depths of, you know, that sunken hole that you can never recover from. I refuse to be that person. I refuse to be that, you know, that victim that goes out there and cries, woe is me, you know, and I refuse, because there are a lot of young men and women out there that I train that are looking up to me to be that rock, to be that strong person, to somehow find a way to soldier on. And that's what I do. You know, it's just up until that point, you know, my football life was just football, just having fun, you know, and it's just to get a call, you know, and I still remember like it was yesterday. I mean, my mother called me in the morning, you know, and said, Robert, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, Mom, I'm fine. What's wrong? And she was like, you know, have you seen the news? I was like, no, I haven't. I mean, I really don't watch the news. She's like, are you sitting down? And I was like, okay, what's going on? What's wrong? And then she proceeded to tell me. And I remember just going numb, just being like, is this a joke? And I know she wouldn't play a joke on me like that. So I knew it was true. So, but then the problem was, my father had the same name, Robert Drummond, you know, so I'm a junior, you know, so everyone kept calling my phone thinking it was me. And everyone's like, my phone was just like, to the point where I just like, I took the battery out of my phone because I didn't want to hear my phone anymore. And I didn't want to talk to anybody, you know, but I had I'd say about a 2-year stint of just being in a depression to where, I mean, I still played football, but it was the worst 2 years of my life, whereas I was I'd never been injured before in a game of football. And that year I missed 7 games, just psychologically, not just preparing myself for a game and just thinking about so many different things, you know. And eventually I pulled myself out of it, you know, and told myself, it's like, you know, Robert, I mean, and I didn't do it, you know, to try and ostracize anybody else or make anybody else feel bad or make anybody else, you know, worry about me. I did it for the simple fact I was like, enough. You always know if you've been a fighter or not. And I had always been a fighter. And I was like, why aren't you fighting this also? It's like, you know, you got to be better, because you have to raise up and understand that you have young men and young women that are looking up to you to see what you're going to do, how they're going to act. You know, so the next young man or young woman this happens to, you got to be that voice of reason to talk to them, to pull them out of it, because I pulled myself out of it. So now I'm the voice of reason to go to talk to young men and young women who are going through the same thing, to pull themselves out of it. We can defeat anything that brings us down as long as we put our mind to it. And that's the one thing I try and instill in these young men and women every single day. I love working with kids so much. I love working with people so much. And that's one of the reasons I had been a personal trainer up until that point, but it enthused my passion for wanting to train people, because I always told people I want to make people healthy so they can have a long life to be with their loved ones, because that's the most important thing. Being with people who care about you, being people that love you, and being with people who want to see you successful and do well in life.
Yeah. I mean, that's so wild, you know, because you're at the time that this happens, you're balancing so many emotions.
Yes.
You know, you're losing a loved one and a family member. You're also maintaining a career in which is not an easy feat. I mean, you say, you know, you were just having fun playing football at the time, but if we're being honest, you are at a caliber, not only physically, but mentally, to compete at a D1 level, to compete at an NFL level, and then to have much success out of the CFL. So that takes a lot of determination. And I don't want to skip over the fact that while this was going on, it sounded like you had just had your first son or your first kid. So much emotion to balance, and I could imagine how easy it is to go a different direction. You know what I mean? Go maybe down a negative path or a negative thought pattern. So I see such consistency in that mentality and determination that carried you, you know, into a work ethic that allowed you to play football, and that same mentality for however long, you know, the career lasted, but that same mentality that came and saved you, you know, that perspective, that whole choice not to be destroyed or a choice not to quit. You know, you're not leaving it up to anybody else but yourself to figure out how to overcome these obstacles. And I think that's such an important thing to show. I don't know if you ever imagined yourself while you were playing the game, later in life, being an instructor, being a positive, I don't want to say just a positive influence, but a motivational speaker? Or was
Yes.
it something that you felt was kind of like almost a responsibility now to take all of that, those personality traits, that ethic and that experience to share that?
I think now it's my responsibility for the simple fact that, as I said before, I'm strong enough to overcome this because, unfortunately, I also come from a pattern of where I've had 41 friends, 41 friends, former teammates of mine who committed suicide because they have CTE or had brain disease.
Sure.
41 teammates, that's a lot. And even with someone like myself who more 99.99% I have it also. But I'm past the age of when, athletes, that have it, are killing themselves or having, mental health, and physical difficulties, So I've even had so one of my persons I train here, clients, is a neurologist, and she's like, Robert, you're beating the odds by you're like the 1%. I was like, I know, I don't know why. Maybe it's just my mental toughness, and I refuse to give up, But that's my mentality. I refuse to ever get up, never give up, and just keep there and working as hard as I possibly can, because at the end of the day, it's just like I love being an influence on children because that's the future. It's like, I always tell myself, I'm an old man, but my son's always like, 53 is not that old, Dad. I was like, well, anyway, that's 53 years in football years, so kind of like that, kind of like dog years, I took a 15 years professional pounding, so.
Yeah.
But I tell myself, no, I'm just mentally wiser now, and I definitely, when I was younger playing in the NFL, didn't see myself going down this path, but having my father murdered really changed my outlook and perception on life. Every day I wake up, I always tell myself, thank you, God, for giving me another day, because I know it's never promised. And I just go out there and try to be the best person, do the best job I possibly can each and every single day. And I tell my children, no matter what you do, at least once or twice a day, try and make someone smile, because that's what living is about. It's like making somebody smile, making somebody feel that they're important also, because a lot of people go unlooked, and it's sad that people go unlooked. It shouldn't be like that. We're all the same. We're all in this together. We're all human beings. We're all born. We're all going to die one day. So we should just care for one another. And that's the way I feel. And that's the way I'll treat my life going forward.
Sure. I'm just curious. So myself, I'm an oldest sibling. I think you're an oldest sibling.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an older sibling. I have a younger sister.
You are the oldest?
I'm the oldest. I have a younger sister.
Yes. So this is something I just kind of notice wherever I go, or the people I talk to, they end up feeling this sort of responsibility to kind of give back to the youth, to work with kids, to show them a different way. And I know that I have got that from being an older brother to younger brothers and a younger sister, and not necessarily having someone there that I could always go to, someone above me that I could go to ask the important questions, or to have that experience passed down to me. So I always understood the importance of whatever I was going through to be able to share that.
Yes.
And like I said, I know you're an older brother as well. I don't know if that's where your sense of community and of giving back comes from, but I just see it so occurring time and time again. And like I said, all the stories and the way that you tell them,
yes,
I had to ask the question, and it just so happens to be that you are. So,
yes, I'm an older, the oldest sibling.
The oldest sibling, yeah.
But I had a group of great mentors, coming up. In college, it was Don McPherson, our quarterback at Syracuse University, who was a second in the Heisman voting in 1987. He should have won it, and in the pros, it was Randall Cunningham. It's
okay, sure, I've heard of him.
Yeah. The late great Jerome Brown. Reggie White was on my team, a great mentor. So Seth Joyner was on my team. And then when I got into the CFL, it was the likes of a Doug Flutie that was on my team. Mike Clemens was on my team. I can go on and on about the guys who influenced me. Who were, granted, I was their caliber and they're equal up there, but they just showed me, a way of how to be, to be a caring, kind, considerate human being. I knew how, but it was refreshing to see it from superstars doing it. Because these are the guys that are upper echelon guys, like a Reggie White, You was like, okay, how's he gonna act? He was the most gracious, nicest guy. Jerome Brown, the same way. Randall Cunningham, who's a minister now for the Las Vegas Raiders, one of the greatest guys. Eric Allen, So I was just like, I learned from those guys, and I carry those traits on. So it made it that much easier, if I could even say that, when something tragic happened to me like that, that I was able to, to manifest that pain into something positive and use it as energy to live my life, as the best I possibly can. And that's the best way I can put it. That's the concept I tell everybody. Yes, that pain's still there. Yes, that rage is still there. But you know what? I turn it into energy and use it to be useful for myself, where I can get up in the morning and start my day running and get as many things as I can possibly in that day. Because as I said before, tomorrow's never promised.
Absolutely. One thing I think is very powerful, and it's interesting that Quinn's kind of brought up the oldest sibling thing. I think, so personally, one thing that it took me a long time to understand is humility,
Yes.
and asking for help, and then accepting mentorship, right? So accepting guidance from the people that are above me. And luckily, I mean, through the year, through my early 20s, it was something I couldn't do. I was very stubborn, and the oldest sibling, I always thought I needed to just be strong, and in various different ways. Obviously, my dad's still alive, but they're kind of growing up. There's a disconnect there. He wasn't always around and stuff like that. So a little bit, I felt like I was just I was responsible. People were looking to me to do that and just to be strong. And so when I got to the point where I had to break down and I needed help, it was a difficult exercise in humility. But then once I started doing that and discovering I could lean on people that were around me as mentors, as friends, for help, what I found that did is it actually gave me a lot more ability to turn around and to give back and to help those that I could help. So kind of, can you speak to that maybe a little bit? What was kind of your reconciliation of experience with humility, kind of setting your ego aside, accepting help? Did you go through those same kind of steps, or what was kind of your version of that?
It was a little different for me. I mean, I was always humble, because even in high school, I was a star running back for my high school football team, but I always wanted my teammates, to be happy and playing the game also. So, I mean, I'd have like 300 yards in the first half. My coach would be, and he would always ask me, Bobby, I was like, do you want to play the rest of the game? And I'd be like, you know what, coach, nah, let the other guys play. I don't need to break any records here. And he always respected me for that. And I was the same way at Syracuse. I was always like, let the other guys play too. It's a team sport for a reason. So I was never a ball hog. I never one that wanted to be the center of attention or the glory hog, or, I was like that's not what impressed me. Remember, I told you I was a hard worker. So what impressed me for was like the fact that I was playing and doing all these things because I worked my behind off and I deserved it. I was a second freshman in the history of Syracuse University at the time to start his first game as a freshman. And it was because I worked my behind off to start as a freshman, nor the freshman I ever started. So I was proud of that. But, you catch a lot of flack sometimes from the upperclassmen, or rookie, you're not that, not as good as you think you are. I was like, I'm not saying I'm that good. I'm just working hard to try and become better every single day, but you're going to get that. So that's one thing with me as I got older, and I became one of the more elite players, elite athletes, and older athletes. I never really hazed the rookies, and I always treated the rookies as gentlemen. Even now, I mean, I became this past, actually before I last saw you. Since then, I become the football commissioner of the youth football league, the new youth football league here in Syracuse. But they actually play nationally, but Oh, wow. So I thought I could make a difference in that league by the simple fact that I'll be able to be around kids who really have no training. So now they get training from a professional athlete who's also a personal trainer. Plus, I can put my stamp in being able to coach those kids and teach them about humility, about honor, about respect, about how to love the game. Because I sit there and tell them, if you don't love this game, walk away, because it's a tough game. You're going to get bumps and bruises. I mean, those who play football before, that. You get your finger pinched between the helmet. That's some of the worst pain you ever felt before in your life. And if you don't like it, you won't play the game anymore. I mean, waking up the next day and just looking at your body, especially in the college and pro game, and just having welt marks and bumps and bruises and black and blue marks all over your body, and just saying to yourself, why do I do this? But the next day you go to practice, you're out there, you're running around because you love it. You got to love the game. Yeah. And that's one thing I tell these kids. If you don't, and I said it when I was speaking when we were at JP's event, if you love something and it's a job, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes, sir.
If you love it, you love to do it. I mean, it's a passion. Right. I mean, I'm a personal trainer, but it's not my job. It's my passion.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I enjoy going out there and teaching these kids because I mold them, and it's so refreshing for me when I go out there and things that I teach them and I taught them, they repeat back to me, and it amazes me sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, these kids don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Because my sons don't listen to me. So I'm always like, other affirmation that, all right, these kids don't listen to me. And one of my 8-year-olds, a little quarterback the other day, in one of his scrimmages, he threw for like 5 touchdowns, and I was very proud of him. So when I had him in practice this past Monday, I was like, young man, it's like, that was a great game. You got to be careful, throw a few more touchdowns, and these girls are going to start asking me for your autograph. And he repeats something back to me that I say to them, like said to them all the time, but I hadn't said it in a while. And he was like, Coach Drummond, he's like, I don't have to worry about those girls right now. He's like, you always taught us that, girls are always going to be there. We need to work for our goals, because it's our goals that are the most important things. And I was like, and it just made me smile. Wow. So I was like, you know what? That's the difference I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make the difference in the life of young men, to make them understand that it's the small things that count. Just working for your goals and trying to accomplish something, is what the important things are. And that's where I think I can make a difference, and that's where I think I'm making a change.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does. It definitely does. There was a point in my life, it was early when I was going to college, I didn't really know what I wanted or needed to be going for, but I enjoyed sports. I was good at sports. And so I went for, phys ed and coaching. And I took some time off early on in my college career to coach. And I was going to be an assistant coach on the boys varsity basketball team. And there was just an overflow of people that were coming out for the team that year. And so there was a varsity team, there was a JV team, and there were about 9 kids that were going to be cut, all younger, all kids who were, what were they going to do? Sit on their hands for the whole winter. And I said, I spoke to the coach and said, hey, maybe we could start a freshman program and try like that. Just at least put these kids, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to shape up, but it's just something for them to do, something productive. And so we started this team, and we, we're playing schools like Syracuse and Proctor out in Utica, and they're dunking on us as freshmen. And I'll tell you that we did not win a single game that year. But about 10 years later, so close to 10 years later, I bump into some of them. And honestly, I didn't remember the majority of the stuff they had brought up. But what stood out to me the most was that we didn't win a single game, but these guys who were grown now remembered every single nickname that I gave each one of them. You know what I mean? And all these little experiences within the game. Like, sure, game time was fun. They worked hard at practice, but it's like, you're talking about teaching them humility, and self-respect and self-motivation. Like, that is the stuff that continues to give and continues to grow. And I've seen it firsthand, and I've certainly heard it before, and I'm hearing it again with you. It makes the world of difference. It makes the world of difference. I turn on the news, flipping through the news, and I see so much. Are you still in the Syracuse area?
Yes, I'm sorry. I actually live in Manlius.
You live in Manlius. Okay. So born and raised there, came back there. And of course, you probably see it all in the news as well. I mean, shoot, you see it even closer than that. But there's been a lot of violence. I don't know if it's gang violence. I don't know if it's just, people surviving. I don't know if I can't put my mind there. But what is it you see that might be lacking? Is it are there not enough programs for younger kids? Not enough mentors, or is it? I'm sure it's a very leveled or I'm a layered answer. But just as far as your perspective goes,
I mean, that's the $1 billion question. It's just, if I could put my finger on it, I mean, I know one aspect of it is this is a entirely different generation of kids. It really is. This is a generation of kids that, that they expect everything given to them. everything's instant. They don't have to work for anything. Whether it be a cell phone, whether it be television, whether it be there's, the TVs and these. It's just technology has made these kids lazy. And if they don't get something in a hurry or you disrespect them, it's automatically, just anger. You take a kid's phone away. Look at how angry they get. You think they were going to die without having their phone for an hour. Right. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just, so it's just a different generation of children where there's more violence on television. There's more violence in video game. The toughest video game for me growing up was Defender. The little thing came down and you shot little, shot things, or Centipede or Tempest. These games now, they have actual combat war games, and and I don't play video games, but what's that one shooter game they had? They had Halo. Then they had the other one that these kids played, and I'm like, wow, it's a simulation army war game. So it's like, that's the only thing I really can chalk it up to. But it's hard to figure out. When I go into the inner city and I talk to these kids, another thing is that it's just the home life. Home life is a huge, huge, huge reflection of how that child's gonna lash out and act up. If he's got a bad home life, he'll come to school, he'll be good for a while, but then eventually he goes off the rails, and starts acting up because that's what he's used to. That's what he knows. So, and I was just telling my son, as I was working out before I came on the call with you guys, I was like, Rob, because he's mentality-wise, he's just like me. He always says he wants to help people because he sees me do it. And I respect that. I was like, hey, good for you. But I tell him you can't help everybody, Raphael, because at the end of the day, they still have to go home to a bad situation if it's a bad situation. So while they're with you, yes, it's okay. They're fine and everything, and I applaud you for doing it. But they still have to go back home to a bad situation. It's like a child going back to a parent that abuses him. He's great with you for a while, but he still has to go back to the abusive parent. And until we can break that cycle and try and solve that problem, I think the cycle's going to repeat itself and just keep getting worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. From the technology issues into that instant gratification generation, in which, you could look online and read how they're building some of these apps, and it's purposely to keep attention and to feed on that serotonin. And then, as soon as that is gone, as soon as that phone is taken away, those levels drop. So of course, that's where that anger or that rage comes from. I was just, considering what it's like as far as the receptivity with kids these days when you go out. But you answered all of that. That was a great, that was a great answer.
Are you old enough to say kids these days?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I am. My girlfriend thinks I am.
I like. So you kind of one of the recurring things of a lot of what you've been talking about is kind of taking ownership, right? So you personally, you took ownership for your own success.
Correct.
You took ownership for the success of your team as a whole. You took ownership of what was your responsibility to climb out of kind of what ended up being like emotionally a rock bottom place for you in life. Right? And then talking about how you talk to your son as far as how he can try to impact people. Essentially what it sounds like to me is you're encouraging him to take ownership of what he has control over.
Yes.
And understand what he doesn't, right? So influencing somebody while you're face to face and doing the best that you can in that situation.
Yes.
And also understanding how to let go when you separate. And like you said, when they go home to whatever their home life is, you don't have control of that situation.
No, you do not.
If you fret about that, and if you try to worry about that, if you try to take ownership over something that's outside of your control, I definitely think it would have negative consequences. And I think, I think that ownership, I think it's a very profound and I think it's a very significant thing, especially when people start looking at the world as kind of like what's going on a global scale. I think we can disconnect from what's going on in our community and what we have ownership over, right? And so can you, I guess, kind of expand on that even a little bit more as far as your focus locally and what you're doing in the community and stuff?
No, I try and do things in the community to where, it's just, for me, it's tough because I'm just one person,
right?
So, and I realize that, but it's like, I always wake up with a passion to try, even as one person, to try and move mountains, because all it takes is one person, if I think about it,
Sure.
So I'm involved with a lot of youth programs, basketball programs, I volunteer as much as I can. I go down, and as I said before, but before COVID-19 hit, I would always go into the schools and speak at the schools and everything. But I'm a safety first person, so I don't want to put anybody in danger. So I told the schools I'll come back and do it again, but once it's safe for the kids, because I'm always about children being safe in that type of environment. But it's like you said, you have to take ownership within yourself before you can help anybody else. And just sitting in the car, even with my son, I told him, it's like, it's the only person you really can control is yourself. I had a coach that once that said, as football players, all we can do is control the controllables. We can sit there and practice all day for what they're going to do, but we have no idea. All we can do is take care of what we do as individuals. So we have to work together as a team, and we'll take care of ourselves. And if we take care of ourselves, the rest will take care of itself. So if we do what we're supposed to do and execute what we're supposed to do, we'll win the game. If we don't execute what we're supposed to do and we allow them to gain an advantage on us, then we didn't do what we're supposed to do. So that's our fault. So it's Coach Mack. It's a great concept, and I teach these children, especially for me. It's just any trainer can take a child out there and run them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And yeah, that's not gonna get. It's gonna get him in shape, but it's not gonna mentally prepare him for or her for what they have to do. So I mentally train them to where I make them think, and I make them cognitively think about, a lot of times they have drills and everything where lights will flash and you want to touch the light. I say no. I want a verbal one, to where I'll put different colored cones on the ground. I'm going to tell you, close your eyes. When you open your eyes, I want you to run to that cone. Close them back. Open your eyes. So I'll call out green, blue, orange, red, red, green, blue, blue, green, red. And they have to run to each cone and touch each cone to the point where now they're running the 8 cones. So now cognitively, I've called out 8 numbers or 8 colors in a row, and they have to run and touch it in that order. And just doing things like that to where it gets their mental focus and their mental acuity up. So where now the athletic part comes in. Now when they come together, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Yes, this is what pro sports is about. Having a mental, and I call it what do we always say in sports? Having a high IQ in sports, right? The best athletes in the world have a great high IQ in sports. Yeah. And that's what it's giving these kids, a IQ in sports. And that's what I try and teach them. See things like the Matrix before they happen. And that's what separates good athletes from great athletes. And that's what I've gotten to the concept of trying to teach these young athletes on how to have a great or a high IQ in sports. And it's working because they're catching on. And it's fun to watch and it's fun to see. My problems are no problems as long as I have children around me, is what I always say, because they're the beacons of light, they truly are.
Sure. And I had a question. You might have just answered it, but I'm going to ask anyway. Like I said, you've had an extensive career at the highest level where you've given your physical self, you know what I mean? The physical body, and even, to stay at that level mentally, you're giving that. Now you, through your, when you go out and you speak, or when you're working with kids in the community, you're giving yourself, your spiritual self, your energy. 2 questions, because we can't always give what we don't have. And that's something that we have talked about before. What do you do? How do you stay self-motivated at this level and at this point in your life? And what is it you find recess in? So, when you do need to rest and just kind of recuperate before you jump back into it, what are some of the things that you do?
I love listening to music. Music. They always say music calms a savage beast. That's me. So I just love listening to music, and it relaxes me. And a lot of times, I just watch. I watch a lot of Netflix shows. I like watching miniseries and documentaries and things of that nature. I write poetry. So I do a lot of things that to mentally challenge myself. And just to relax. But it's like just as I said before, and it's like it's never gonna go away. That anger and rage is still inside me. But I use it to my advantage. I use it for energy. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't get mad and just start crying and just get, just rage out of the world. I use it to start my day to go, all right, let's get these kids ready to be able to go out there and be successful. So I've learned how to use what was once anger and rage and taking me down a dark path and use it to my advantage. As I said before, I'm tough. I'm not going to let anything control me that's inside of me. I'm going to control it, and I'm going to teach others how to control it, because I was also involved with a camping program here that happened in the summer, but again, before COVID. it was called Camp Happy Days or Camp Good Days and Happy Times. And what it was a camp for children who were cancer survivors, and it was a camp for kids who had a loved one or parent or sibling, murdered. So I was their beacon. I was the one they could talk to. I was one of I went to this camp, and I was like their camp counselor. So I mean, it was always good for those kids to hear from somebody who's not crying and is not broken from it. Somebody who's gone on to be successful as I was and can still have a positive influence and talk positively about things, as opposed to someone who just sits there who's always like sad, who always can't get out of bed or can't find their way to do good things. But I always let these kids see a strong person who wants to go out there and be successful and be good at what he does, as opposed to a broken person who just wants to be sad all day and just let a tragedy, decide who he is. I refuse.
Yeah, I see. So, you're basically saying that the way that you have transformed that pain and that rage, the way you've transformed it, it sounds like it has become self-perpetual as far as the motivation side of it.
Correct. It's pure. It's what I call pure energy. I mean, I don't know how. At 53, I have all the energy in the world. I'm running for here. Like today, I was running routes with my 8-year-old kid, and I'm sitting there telling myself, how am I still able to do this? As a 53-year-old man who can barely move, but it's just fun for me. You know why? Because I see the smiles on their face, and it's just energy. Instead of sitting there being sad, might as well do something positive with life.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Man, that is absolutely beautiful, Robert. I love it. I love it all. Probably one more thing real quick, and then we'll try to wrap it up. Something I like to focus a lot on closing conversations with, kind of, because for me, it's been one of the most profound points of focus in my life. It's something you and I talk about a lot, but it's gratitude. And it's something you've talked a lot about in kind of various different ways. Because obviously it's something you focus on a lot when you talk, and you probably focus on a lot day to day. But the word gratitude, what does it mean to you? And how do you focus on expressing it day to day?
I'm thankful. What I didn't tell you was I'm thankful I didn't pull the trigger when I had a gun in my mouth back in 1998. Because now it'd be a whole different story. And that's the dark road. I mean, because I was thinking about suicide at that point because it just hurt so much. But I'm very, very thankful that I didn't, because I'm grateful for the simple fact that God gave me a chance to go out there and just take that pain and just suppress it, and use it to my advantage, and don't ever let it it comes back up, but don't ever let it come back up as something dark. That is, let it come back as something being grateful for. You know what? And I always ask myself this question: would I be a different person today if my father wasn't murdered? And I sit back and I can honestly answer myself. I was like, yes, I would. I mean, I may never have been able to find that graciousness and gratitude within myself. If it hadn't happened, you have to be at your worst before you can ever find out how good you can be. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, and I tell people this all the time: you never know, how bad something can be unless it happens to you. I mean, even now, as I ask people this all the time: do you think you can forgive someone if they killed a loved one? And everyone says the same thing every single time: no. And I'm always like, you don't know that. That's like, I hope you never find out, but you don't know that. If you'd asked me that question before someone killed my dad, I would have probably said, no way in the world I would have been able to forgive him. Not a chance. But I did. Why did I? Because my father's gone. I can't bring him back. There's bigger things in life. I can't sit here and be mad at the world. Who loses out on that? I do. The children do. My sons do. I refuse to do that. I refuse. So I'm very, very gracious for being humble, given a second chance at life, and just going out there and just being the best person and doing the best job I possibly can as a man. That's all I can ask myself.
Awesome. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And so man, that expression of gratitude, and I can say definitively, I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to meet you, to hear what you have to say.
For me also.
Engage in conversation. And I know, for a fact, we can have a tremendous impact on the youth, on the community, and like you said, the future of the community around us, and in various ways, I'm sure you've seen the community and the children expressing their gratitude back for you, and the struggle you've endured and the way you've been able to change that and to shape it and to draw power from it and draw passion from it, draw purpose from it, and just turn around and influence the world around you. And that's absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
It's
everything. It's everything. Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Mine as well.
Rick came back from his trip out to Syracuse. I guess there was a dinner there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I heard this guy speak, and he just, 15 minutes straight told me the whole story. He's like, and when he said this, it reminded me of the time that we talked about this, and he started talking about, and I could just see how pumped he was. And I had actually, I think it might have been the first anti-violence show. It was up on the third floor at Maggie's.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, I was there too. So I had seen it before. I was within the masses in there, but certainly to hear it, almost on a more personal level. It just, I don't want to say it hits harder to negate the effect it had at the time, but you can imagine, sitting here and being able to, like he said, being able to engage and kind of also pick your mind as far as, those characteristics and that mentality, I think is important. And I'm grateful for it personally. I'm thankful for it because this is something that we can all share now, in the same community in which we try to affect on a daily basis. So just, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Anytime, guys.
Robert, if we have anyone listening that's in the Syracuse area that would like to get their kids involved with sports and stuff, who do you work with? Where can we go to find more information? I know you personally. I think you're on Facebook. You're on Instagram. Yeah. I know we're buddied up on there. But as far as some of the youth programs and stuff, give us a little plug. Let us know what's going on in the community. Where can we find more information?
Well, actually, I'm at the Y in Manlius right now.
Okay.
I'm in the process now with all this COVID and everything going on. I'm in the process now of developing a lot more youth programs because I'm involved with the AYF football as a football commissioner right now. This just started, and right now, I actually another thing I like to do is I like to work with numbers. So I invented a system that from 5 tests measures the overall athleticism in an athlete per their sports. It's called RAPS, which stands for Redefining Athletics Performance System.
Okay.
So I can come out and test an athlete and tell him what his strengths and weaknesses are, plus where he nationally ranks amongst other athletes, his age group, and his sport position. I've been working on it for 10 years.
Do you have a website for that?
Yes, it's rapsrating.com.
Can you spell that out for me one more time? We're going to put a link for that in the comment section under this as well.
Okay, RAPS.
Yep.
Rating. RATING.com.
Beautiful. Rapsrating.com. That's awesome, man. We'll put a link to that in the comment section when we put this on YouTube and stuff too.
Yeah, but I'm just doing things, trying. I won't say trying to keep busy because my son my eldest calls me the Energizer Bunny. He's like, "You never sleep, do you?" I was like, "Too much to do. I can't sleep."
Like you said, it's just that endless energy that you found with your passion in life. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I always tell him I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm not worried about it right now. Let's go. I got too many. I have too many lives to change.
Yes, sir.
I would never want any kid or any person to ever feel as bad as I did because, fortunately, and I know me, I was strong enough to overcome it. A lot of people aren't going to be strong enough to overcome it, and that would hurt me. I didn't want to see anybody succumb to the depression, the anxiety, the sadness of losing someone or losing something that they couldn't get. I always tell them, tomorrow's a brighter day. Just wake up and I'll be there if you need me. If you want to call me you want me to work with your children, let me know. I'm there to help. And until the day I have no more breath to do it, I'll keep doing what I do.
Beautiful, Robert.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I can't think of a better sentiment to end it on than that. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you so much again. It was wonderful getting to meet you. Very grateful to get to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to sit and talk with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
definitely. Thanks for having me, as I said.
We'll talk with you soon.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Yeah, you too.